So in 2018, we've already seen Melissa McCarthy go back to school, a la Rodney Dangerfield. We've seen her be a private eye with a Muppet in the Happy Time Murders. And now we're going to see her in a serious movie be Lee Israel, a former famous writer of biographies back in the 60s and 70s, but falling on hard times in the 80s. We're going to be talking about her newest movie, Can You Ever Forgive Me? Can You Ever Forgive Me is also the title of the biography written by Lee Israel about Lee Israel. She wrote her own biography. It's the story of how in the early 90s, this movie takes place in 91, she was having financial problems and found a paper, a letter from a famous writer, and decided to sell it. She found out that she can make good money in this, so she starts faking letters. And she fakes up to, as they tell us at the end, up to over 400 different letters, and makes a lot of money off of it. Of course, we know what happens at the end because this is based on a true story. And this is the first time I've really seen Melissa McCarthy in a drama. While I think this movie also has elements of black comedy, but this is a really good movie, and this is a really strong performance by Melissa McCarthy. I honestly kind of didn't think she had it in her, because usually she just plays the overweight buffoon, or some variation of that, more or less. I know she kind of was the straight person in the Happy Time Murders, but you can also tell that she has a lot of charm, because she did show that. And this movie isn't without laughs. There's a lot of funny part. All the stuff with her and her best friend, what was his name, Jack Koff, were really good, and I really enjoyed both of them playing against each other. I learned a lot. I didn't really know anything about Lee Israel walking into this movie. The only thing that really sold me is the trailer and the chance to see Melissa McCarthy do something serious, and she knocked it out. I love the stuff with Jack Cook, I believe was the character's name, played by Richard E. Grant. And they had crazy chemistry together. They were really fun together. Like I said, Melissa McCarthy's performance was strong. She does crack jokes in this movie. She does make fun of other people, especially her cohort in crime, Jack. But she also has a soft side to her. This is a movie where you start out as this character who's down on her luck, but as things start rolling and she starts making money doing these illegal things, and as everything crumbles around her, you start to see around the edges of the character. You get to see how she got here and why she's there. There's a couple of very emotional scenes at the end that I really connected with. There's a scene where she meets her former, I didn't know this either, Lee Israel is apparently a lesbian. She meets her girlfriend, and they have a very interesting exchange that reveals a lot. Like, once you get to the end, it reveals a lot about the character and why she's in the predicament she is and what happens to her, and why she's kind of like who she is. Very strong performance. There are times where you really feel bad for Melissa McCarthy, and in general I was just really floored by it, and just the story in general. Richard E. Grant plays Jack, or her cohort in crime, who kind of plays this vagabond. He's also gay, and he plays this vagabond, like, just nonsensical person who just is very aloof and just lives to create, havoc, or he just wants to have fun. He doesn't take anything seriously. He has an interesting, not really a story arc, but a story that's going along with him, and how he fits into Lee Israel's world. His ending is actually pretty touching too, especially when he and Lee speak for the final time in the movie, where you kind of realize there was a lot more going on than Lee gave into. And you see a lot of that in there. There wasn't really a lot bad in this movie. The only thing I couldn't say is at times certain sequences feel a little bit, at an hour and 40 minutes, it's hard to say what it was cut, but it's definitely kind of a slow burn movie because it is a biopic. But that's about it. They reuse a lot of the same scenes. There's a love story in there for Melissa McCarthy's character that at one point I think you could have really lifted it and it wouldn't have hurt the story. That was about the only thing. Like when I first saw it, I was like, okay, I understand what's going on here. Then nothing happens of it. It just kind of goes away. The other girl barely has anything to do in the movie after those couple of scenes. So that kind of felt like a wasted opportunity. Especially exploring once the librarian or the shopkeeper owner figures out that, you know, Lee was ripping her off basically. That kind of felt wasted, but that's really about it. That's a minor thing in the overall narrative. Other than that, I thought this movie was really solid. It was nice to see McCarthy play a dramatic role. Yes, she did get her one-liners. Yes, she was a quippy person and she made her jokes, but it was a really strong performance. The story was at least very touching for myself. About Lee Israel's character. Ending was perfectly fine. They did one of those things that most biopics do, you know, stuff like The Founder, things like that, where at the end they just tell you what happens for the rest of the person's life. And I didn't realize she literally just died 3 years ago, I believe it was. So I highly recommend it if it's in a theater near you. I believe it was in limited release the last 2 weeks. I don't think this is a movie that's going to spread out wide. It doesn't really look like a contenders movie or awards movie. So I kind of feel bad that not more people are going to see this movie. Because like I said, McCarthy is really strong in this movie. That's pretty much it. It's pretty simple biopic, you know. Some of the crimes that she does is pretty interesting. Watching Richard E. Grant play Jack is really good, and like some of his shenanigans are pretty funny. I find he was very interesting. He was just that type of character who was very flamboyant because he is homosexual. And he's like just all over the place. He's very charming. When McCarthy can't start selling the letters herself, he has to go, and he's got this charm about him trying to con these people, but at the same time being very deflective and being very, oh, somebody gave me this and whatnot. That was really cool. The forging of the actual letters. I think a lot of people who want to commit forgery and fraud are going to enjoy this even better, because the whole thing on how she does it. She'll literally, like the first one she did, she found that she couldn't copy the signature, so she put the letter onto a TV while it was just showing static, and literally copied it. There's a letter she tried to make old by putting it in the oven and, you know, like kind of singeing the paper, making it look older. She would buy all these different typewriters. It's really interesting to see, wow, this is how people commit fraud. And it's kind of ingenious in a way that's very illegal, and please don't do it. So yeah, this movie is pretty good. I liked it. If I had to, for my grade, I'd give it a 7.5. I thought it was very good. There's nothing that hooked me that would make me want to watch it again, though. Well, I did enjoy the drama, and I did enjoy the friendship between Israel and Jack. There was nothing that compelled me to say, you know, I should own you on Blu-ray. But it was a fun movie. I had a good time. I'm really glad I saw this. I hope this opens up more directors to looking at Melissa McCarthy doing drama and not just labeling her, you know, slapstick fat person. In fact, this movie never really made mention of her weight. They actually just made fun of the fact that she dressed terribly. There was some good laughs too as well in this movie. So that's my thoughts on Can You Ever Forgive Me. Did you see it? Let me know in the comments below. Do you plan on seeing it? I know this movie is in limited release, so not everyone can see it. But when it comes on video on demand or DVD or just for Redbox or rental, I suggest you give it a try. It's not that long, an hour and 40 minutes. I think you'll look at her, Melissa McCarthy, in a different way. That's all for now. Bye.